Hey, hi, hello everyone. How are you? I hope you all are fine. And I, Ritika, am back bringing with me another new session. So, before telling you what are we going to study today, we will, as usual, have a quick tour around SwiftLearn to see what is SwiftLearn all about. SwiftLearn, it is India's most sincere learning destination wherein we get the classes for grade 1 to grade 10. We are having 100% live and interactive classes over here in which you are connecting with your teachers through audio and video calls and you are taking your lessons. Then we have personalized attention batch with maximum 6 students in every batch so that teachers can give attention to every single child that he or she deserves. Apart from this, there is an academic mentor team which will be tracking your progress and will be guiding you throughout your session so that if you get stuck anywhere, you then and there get help. Also, we cover the syllabus as per your school exam schedule so that you can do well in your schools also. Apart from this, there are some of the key features which make SwiftLearn a little bit more special, like detailed progress report. So after every 2.5 months, you will be getting a progress report, which will be a kind of analysis of what you have been doing in your homeworks, in your classworks, in your practice test, etc. Then we have SwiftLearn Academic Test Series, wherein you can compete with the students, you can see where do you stand and what are the things that you need to improve. You can also take unlimited practice tests which are available on the SwiftLearn portal, and it contains 2 categories of subjective and objective. So you can attempt all the tests, you can practice for your school exams, and you can improve your performance. So all these things, experience yourself by booking a free trial class at SwiftLearn and have this amazing experience. And also, if you are new to the channel of SwiftLearn, kindly subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that you do not miss out on any update. And if you like this video, kindly press on like button. So it is class 10th ICSE that we are going to do today. We are going to focus here on organic chemistry. Since it is our first session, so it will be very easy, to cope up and to understand. So let's get started quickly. Now, what are the things and what are the objectives of our today's chapter? It is organic and inorganic compounds that we are going to study. Then we will be seeing what are some of the sources of organic compounds, what is the application of organic compound, and why are carbon atoms known as unique. We are going to see the type of organic compounds and hydrocarbons. Then we are going to focus on saturated, unsaturated and homologous compounds. Sounds like very much, but it is very easy, trust me. Let's get started. Now, in olden times when the chemistry was not very advanced, when there was a very little information available from chemistry, there were many substances like sugar, protein, starch that we obtained from living sources. Do you know what were they called? They were known as organic compounds. So the substances like starch, protein, sugar, all these were known as organic compounds. And why were they known as organic compounds? Because they were somewhere related to life. And whatever was related to life, it was known as organic, right? And the particular branch of chemistry which dealt with the organic compounds, it was known as organic chemistry. Okay, so what were the substances called which were produced by inorganic compounds? So that came under the category of inorganic chemistry, right? So all the substances that we got from minerals or some non-living sources, they were under inorganic chemistry. So we were having 2 types of chemistry, organic and inorganic. In olden times, where we were focusing with living beings, it was coming under the category of organic chemistry, and all the things which we were receiving from minerals or some non-living substances, they came under the category of inorganic compounds, and it was dealt with inorganic chemistry. Now, there are various substances like common salt, we have nitrate, blue vitriol, etc. So these were all coming under the category of inorganic compounds. after some time, as you know, the science kept on advancing, there was a German chemist, his name was Friedrich Wöhler. He showed that it is possible to obtain these organic compounds such as urea from laboratory process. So he told us that it is possible to synthesize these compounds in the laboratory also. For example, if we heat ammonium cyanate, we can get urea, and urea is an organic compound. So this concept of organic chemistry, it was slowly given up, okay, and people were made to understand that organic chemistry, it is actually the study or the chemistry of carbon compounds. So now we talk about organic chemistry as the chemistry of carbon compounds. What are organic compounds? So based on the fact that all organic compounds, they essentially contain carbon, the term organic compound now applies to the compounds of carbon. So basically, in olden time, where it was believed that organic chemistry, it related to all the things which are related to living beings, now this thought has just shifted that organic chemistry, it is the study of carbon compounds. Now there is one exception here, that here oxides of carbon, metallic carbonates, and some of the compounds like metal cyanides, metal carbides, they do not come under this category. Alright, now talking about the sources of organic compounds. So where do we get these organic compounds from? There are some of the sources. Let us see where do we get organic compounds from. First is plants. So we get organic compounds from plants. There are various compounds such as starch, we have cellulose, sugar, some of the drugs also which are obtained from the plants. So they are the source of organic compounds. Next, we get organic compounds from animals also in the form of protein, urea, fat, etc. Then we have coal. So from coal we are getting various things such as toluene, benzene, naphthalene, drugs, various perfumes that we use, dyes, etc. So these are again obtained from destructive distillation of coal, and these are again organic compounds. We get organic compounds also by fermentation in laboratory, like acetic acid, okay, ethyl alcohol. These we are obtaining by fermentation. Next, talking about petroleum. So there are various compounds like gasoline, naphtha, petrol, fuel gases which we get from petroleum, which are again a source of organic compounds. Next common thing is wood. So we get various compounds like acetone, methyl alcohol, okay. Again we follow process of destructive distillation of wood and we get these compounds. And then various laboratory processes are there where we synthesize organic compounds in the laboratory. So these are some of the sources of organic compounds, okay. Now we are going to compare organic and inorganic compound to see what is the basic difference that separates organic compound and inorganic compounds. So let us begin with a small comparison. Now organic compounds, since it is now told that study of carbon compounds, it is known as organic chemistry. So carbon becomes one of the most important and one of the most necessary element of organic chemistry. And in inorganic compound, it is not necessary that carbon is it has to be present. It is okay if it is there, and it's also okay if it's not present. Next, talking about solubility in water. So organic compounds, they do not dissolve in water, but on the contrary, inorganic compounds, they easily dissolve in water. Solubility in organic solvents. So if I talk about some of the organic solvents like benzene, alcohol, etc. So organic solvents, they normally dissolve, okay, but inorganic compound, they do not dissolve in organic solvents. Talking about their melting and boiling point. So organic compound, they have a low melting boiling point, and talking about inorganic, they generally have high melting boiling point. Why? Because they are generally ionic and the bonds are very high, tough to break. Combustibility, so they do not catch, they catch fire easily, talking about organic compounds, and inorganic compounds, they do not burn easily. Talking about the bonding, so these form covalent bonds. So covalent bonds we are going to study further in these chapters. What is covalent bond? What is ionic bond? In organic compound, they form ionic bonds. Conductivity, they are non-electrolytes, and inorganic compound, they form ionic bonds which are good electrolytes. They conduct electricity. And isomerism is actually it's a property in which the same number of compounds, they exist in different structures, and because of their different structures the property keeps on changing. So organic compounds, they generally show this phenomena of isomerism, and inorganic compound do not support this particular phenomena. What is isomerism? We are going to study in this particular chapter itself in detail. Smell and color. So organic compounds, they have a very distinct color and odor. We can easily identify it. And inorganic compounds, they are colorless and odorless. Talking about the reactions of organic compounds, their reactions are generally slow, but in organic compound they show fast reactions. Okay, so these are some of the differences which separate organic and inorganic compounds. What are the application of organic compounds? So where do we use actually organic compounds, and why are they important for us? So organic compounds are very important for all of us, because we are using in almost everything that we use daily. For example, the soap, the shampoo that we use to take bath, the perfume, the powder that we apply, clothes that we wear, food we eat, proteins, vitamins, fats, carbs, natural gas, and the petroleum, dye, explosive medicine, and whatnot. So all of these compounds are actually organic compounds. So that is why it is said that organic compounds, they are very important for our survival. Natural gas, again, it is found in all the living things, in all the things in our life. So we just now saw that what are organic compounds and why is it important, what is the difference. Now we are going to see why does this difference occur and what are the unique nature of carbon atoms. So carbon is having a very versatile nature, okay, and there are two main properties which makes carbon very interesting and very versatile. First is tetravalency, valency 4, and next is catenation. So we will be seeing both of these properties in detail. We will be seeing what is meant by it and why carbon exists in these forms. Tetravalency. So the atomic number of carbon is 6. Okay, if I talk about the carbon atom, let us say this is the carbon atom, this is the nucleus. Okay, now if I talk about the outermost shell, so four atoms are present in the outermost shell. Okay, so these 6 electrons, these are 4 electrons are present in the outermost shell. Okay, total we have 6 electrons, in which the distribution goes like 2, 4. Okay, so 2 are here, you can see, and 4 are in the outer circle. So now here what is happening is the valency becomes 4. Since the outer shell has 4 electrons, the valency becomes 4. Okay, and that is why carbon is called tetravalent. And because of this particular property of tetravalency, the carbon atom, it is able to form covalent bonds with 4 other atoms. Okay, so that is what makes carbon a very unique atom. Next is catenation. So what is catenation? It is a kind of self-linking of carbon atoms through covalent bonds. Okay, and it is forming chain, maybe a straight chain, maybe a branched chain, or rings. Okay, so you can see it over here, it is forming a straight chain. So carbon atoms are linking with each other, okay, and they are forming straight chain. Sometimes it can be branched also, and sometimes it can be like a ring also. So they can be forming cyclic compound also. So that is known as catenation. So whenever the carbon atoms, they self-link through covalent bonds to form some rings or some chains of different sizes, that property is known as catenation. Okay, so you can see here cyclic ring is also there. Next is formation of single, double, and triple covalent bonds. Now, if I talk about carbon atom, since it is told that the valency is 4, so what happens now? This carbon atom needs 4 more atoms in order to satisfy itself, right? and for this thing what it will be doing, it will be forming bonds with other atoms. Okay, so to satisfy its valency of 4, what it is doing, it is forming single bond. So for single bond it will need 4 another atoms, right? And if I talk about the double bond, it will need one bond is this and the other 2 bonds. And if we talk about the 3 valency, so it will be like this. Okay, so it is forming different type of covalent bond just to satisfy the valency 4. Okay, so that again becomes a good property that makes it a very versatile element. Next is isomerism. So I just now told you isomerism again is a property that is shown by organic compounds. So these compounds, they are represented by molecular formula, right? And what is isomerism? Wherein the molecular formula remains the same but the structural formula becomes different. Okay, so if I talk about C2H6O, it can exist in 2 forms. One is alcohol and the other one is ether. Now what happens here, the structure changes. Molecular formula remains same but the structure changes, and because of this change in structure it shows different properties. On it, this thing is shown by organic compounds only. The unique nature of carbon atom give rise to formation of a large number of compounds, and it leads to addition of lot new compounds every year, and it demands a separate branch. So that is why we have organic chemistry, which basically deals with all the compounds relating to carbon. Now let us study about different type of organic compounds. The organic compounds have been classified as hydrocarbons, whereas their derivatives are classified as aldehydes, alcohols, ethers, carboxylic acids, halides, ketones, etc. on the basis of their functional group. So we are going to see what is meant by both of them. What happens is, in the hydrocarbons there are various groups. Okay, alkane, alkene and alkyne. We are going to see what is meant by each. When there is single bond between carbon, it comes under the category of alkane. Okay, you can see there is a single bond between carbon atoms. Okay, for example ethane. Now ethane structure will be like CH3. Now how does it go? Like for example, if I take one atom of carbon, okay, since it has 4 atoms in its outermost shell, it requires 4 more, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now one is satisfied by hydrogen, second is satisfied by hydrogen, and third also. Now one more, we need carbon. Okay, so here again we have hydrogen. So the formula of ethane goes like CH3CH3. So 2 carbon atoms and 6 hydrogen atoms. And how is it named alkane? Because there is a single bond between carbon atoms. Talking about alkene, so ENE goes for 2 carbon bonds. Okay, so for example ethene, if I talk about ethene, the molecular formula is CH2 double bond CH2, means it has double bond between carbon atoms. And similarly for alkyne we have 3 bonds. Okay, next is alcohol, which is known as OH group. Okay, for example methanol, so it will go like CH3OH. Next functional group is aldehyde. So aldehyde at CHO. Okay, like for example it is ethanol, so the suffix added here is AL. Okay, ethanol, methanol, etc. Next is ketone. Again here suffix is ONE. For example propanone. Okay, so here CH3 COCH3. Okay, and the functional group is double bond O. C double bond O becomes the functional group. Carboxylic acid is COOH group, and the suffix is oic acid, like ethanoic acid, methanoic acid, propanoic acid, etc. Next is ether, which goes for C bond O bond C group. Okay, for example dimethyl ether, suffix is yl ether. Okay, and last is halide, which is adding halogens like fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, etc. So we have chloroethane. Alright, now hydrocarbons. So hydrocarbons, hydrogen plus carbon. Hydrocarbons are made up of only hydrogen and carbon. The molecular formula, it goes like CX and HY. So X and Y pertain to the number of carbon and hydrogen atoms where we are having in any particular molecular formula. Hydrocarbons, they are classified into two categories, which is open chain and closed chain compounds. And open chain compounds, they further are classified into saturated and unsaturated. Now if I talk about alkane becomes saturated compound, and alkenes and alkynes, they are classified as unsaturated compound. And in the closed chain, they form a closed cyclic structure, right? This kind of structure, they close it. So they are classified into alicyclic and aromatic compounds. Let us study about each of them. Saturated hydrocarbon. The carbon compound whose all four valencies are satisfied by a single covalent bond. Means यहाँ पर एक भी double bond या triple bond, it will not come into the picture. Okay, and all these, there can be various elements over here. So here will be hydrogen. Okay, so all the bonds, they are satisfied by single covalent bond. Next, unsaturated, they come under alkenes and alkynes come under the category of unsaturated. So here four valencies, they are not satisfied by single covalent bond. Here it can be double or triple bond as per the need. Okay, so the once valencies are satisfied, it becomes normal. Okay, so here maybe double bond, or maybe we can have triple bond, but not single bond. Next is cyclic or closed chain hydrocarbon. So the name itself tells that it makes a cyclic structure. So these are the compounds which can contain, obviously they need at least 3 carbon atoms in their molecules. So 3 or more carbon atoms they have, and they possess this cyclic structure. For example, we have benzene, etc. So these are having this cyclic structure. Okay. Now let us study about homologous series and what is meant by same. So homo means same and series means a succession or a sequence. So what is homologous series? It is a kind of series in which the compounds, they have a kind of general formula, okay, but their molecular formula is different in the immediate succession. Now we will be seeing what is meant by homologous series, and we will be understanding the whole concept by this video. So let us start this video. Okay.
In this video, you will learn about the homologous series of the alkanes and alkenes and their structure. Before we look at the structure of these molecules, you may wish to recap your understanding of bonding by watching our covalent bonding video. Alkanes are saturated hydrocarbons, meaning they contain only single covalent bonds between carbon atoms. A single covalent bond is a shared pair of electrons. Let us take our first alkane in the series, methane, CH4. Carbon has 6 electrons in total, 4 of these being in the outer shell. Carbon therefore always needs 4 more covalent bonds to be stable. In methane, the 4 hydrogen atoms have only 1 electron and so covalently bond to the carbon atom, each sharing a pair of electrons. Methane is known as natural gas and is often used as a fuel in homes for heating and cooking. It is also the gas released by cows by belching and flatulence, as it is produced by the fermentation of food by bacteria in their stomachs. The next molecule in the homologous series of alkanes is ethane with 2 carbon atoms. As you can see, a single covalent bond is formed between the 2 carbon atoms, with 6 more hydrogen atoms covalently bonded to complete the molecule. Now we understand the way these molecules are bonded, we can show the next molecule in displayed formula, representing the covalent bonds simply with lines. Here is propane, followed by butane. This alkane series continues and follows the general formula CnH2n plus 2.
Okay.
6 hydrogens. Pause the H6. 10 carbons. An alkane with 10.
So we just now saw that. Just a minute. Okay, we just now saw that we had the formula CnH2n plus 2. Okay, so this is the general formula of alkane. So if our carbon atom has number 1, so H becomes H2 into 1 plus 2. So CH4, and CH4 is the methane, right? So similarly, we have propane, decane accordingly relating to the formula. Okay, we will be just seeing what is further in the video, and then we will be moving further.
By 2 equals 20, plus 2 equals 22. 22 hydrogens. Let us look now at the homologous series of the alkenes. These are unsaturated and so contain a double covalent bond between two carbon atoms. Here is
Okay, so in alkenes what are we having? We are having double bond between carbon and carbon atoms. So let us see what is the general formula of alkene.
Since there is a double bond, there are now two shared pair of electrons between the two carbon atoms. Each carbon atom now has only 2 electrons which covalently bond with a total of 4 hydrogen atoms, 2 on each carbon, to complete the ethene molecule. You are only likely to come across alkene molecules with just one double bond, although there can be more within a molecule. The next molecule in the series is propene. As before, there is a double covalent bond between 2 of the carbon atoms, but the other is just a single bond. We now need to fill the molecule with hydrogen atoms to ensure that each carbon has a total of 4 bonds. 2 hydrogen atoms are required at this end of the molecule. This middle carbon already has 3 bonds and so requires just 1 hydrogen, and at this end carbon has only 1 bond and therefore needs 3 more hydrogens. Since we now understand the covalent bonding in these molecules, let us replace the dot cross diagram with the structural formula. Here is the structural formula of propane. Pause the video now and try and complete this structural formula of butene. Here is the completed structure. Did you get it right? Here are the structural formulas of the first 4 alkenes. Pause the video again and try and complete the general formula. What is the relationship between the number of carbons and the number of hydrogens? Hopefully you got the structure CnH2n. Quite simply, there is double the number of...
Okay, so in alkanes we saw that the general formula is CnH2n plus 2, since it contains all the single bonds. But in the case of alkenes, what will our general formula become? It will be CnH2n. So this particular thing, it will make the use of double bond between carbon atoms. And similarly, if I talk about alkynes, there we will be needing a triple bond
than the number of carbons. So as an example for decane, the molecular formula would be C10H20. Now at the end of this tutorial, you should have a better understanding of the bonding in the alkanes and alkenes and how each homologous series follows the pattern given by its general formula.
Alright, so let us move forward. We just now saw the homologous series, and we in that saw the general formula of alkane becomes CnH2n. So whatever is the value of carbon atom, accordingly we will be getting the atom of hydrogen. For example, if we are having 6 carbon atoms, so H will be 2n plus 2. So it will be 2 into 6 plus 2. So that will count to 14. So C6H14. And that becomes the formula of hexane. Similarly, talking about the alkene, we are having CnH2n. Okay, so we have methane, ethane, propane, butane, pentane, hexane, heptane, octane, nonane, decane, respectively from 1 to 10. Now, what is the similarity between these homologous series? First is the each carbon compound, it is differing by formula unit of CH2. They have same functional group and they occur in succession. So we will be seeing how is it happening. CH2 is the difference. For example, CH4. So here 1 is the carbon atom and 4 is the hydrogen atom number. Now here see, in ethane the number of carbon atom, it increases by 1, and the H, that is hydrogen atom, it increases by 2. So here we are having 6. So see, CH2 gets increased. Similarly in propane we are having 3 and here we are having 8. So again CH2, it gets increased, and they are again an example of same functional group. Okay, now there is a question. The melting point of three members XYZ of a homologous series of hydrocarbon are 180 degrees Celsius, minus 180 degrees Celsius, minus 140 degrees Celsius and minus 30 degrees Celsius. So the question number 1 says which one of these would have lowest number of carbon atoms in the molecule and why, and which one of the three will have maximum number of carbon atoms in the molecule. Now let us see. If I talk about the lowest number of carbon atoms, it will be XY, because the melting point value is the lowest. Okay, so the homolog which has the lowest number of carbon atoms in the molecule, it has lower melting point, and that is why the compound which is named as X, it will be having lowest number of carbon atoms. And talking about the next question, the homolog with maximum number of carbon atoms in the molecule, it will have higher melting point. So since we have Z which has the melting point of minus 30 degree Celsius, which is the highest among these, so Z has the highest melting point. Why? Because it has maximum number of carbon atoms in the molecule. And all the living organisms, our weight consists of 20% of carbon weight. So what are the things that we have learned today? We learned about many things which includes organic and inorganic compounds. What are the sources of organic compounds? Where do we use? Where do we get from? And we learned about hydrocarbons and the classification and homologous series. So I hope you might have understood everything that we have learned in today's class. We will be moving in the further chapter in which we will be learning a little bit more thing about these hydrocarbons. So please stay tuned, keep learning, keep studying. We will be meeting in the next class. Thank you everyone.